our man John Fanta here to talk about the tournament, what we've kind of seen so far, where we're going from here. And John, it's one of the big themes, obviously, of the week has just been how chalky it's been. You've got every 1 and 2 seed in the Sweet 16. You got the one double-digit seed, NC State, with ACC champ, and 11 seed. And looking back in retrospect now, is this something that we maybe should have seen coming, being that we had so many upsets in the conference tournaments where you had lower seeds win those mid-majors and low conference? You weren't really going to get a ton of upsets. Should we not really be that surprised by this?
Well, Bear, I'm in agreement with that. I don't think we should be that surprised by it. And I think when the field came out, I felt really weird filling out my bracket because I didn't have a team at the 6 line, 7 line, or 8 line in my Elite 8. And it's been 13 straight years that a team beyond the 4 line, meaning 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on, has made the Final Four. 13 consecutive seasons. And it's trending that we're not going to see that this year. And we've only ever seen 4 1s make a Final Four one time in 2008, the Mario Chalmers Kansas year. But when the field came out, it wasn't just the bid stealers. You see Duquesne on an 11 line, and you just sit there and you say, I just don't see it. Eventually the gas is going to run out of the tank. And then you look at even the middle at-larges, and there weren't a lot of convincing cases. I mean, Michigan State was the definition of inconsistent throughout the season. They had their ups, they had their downs. They had a great win in the first round, but they weren't able to keep that up. And I think that we saw that throughout much of the middle of this field. So with that in mind, all season long, you cover this sport, and what makes the madness crazy is sometimes you get to the madness and everything that you've covered is out the window. But the top 3 in this sport have been so overwhelmingly good that some of the teams that are not in the top 3 had lost to them so badly, but that almost skews your thinking on some of them because they're not that bad. Marquette's not that bad. They just got blown out and humiliated by Connecticut because Connecticut's the best team in this sport. So it's a little bit two-sided, guys, but I'm not that surprised. And I do think it's refreshing for the sport a year after a random Final Four and some smaller brands. We are going to get a Final Four in Arizona that is really fitting.
Hey, whoa. Watch where you're throwing smaller brand around with my Miami Hurricanes. We are a basketball school now. As I believe we were 9th out of 14th, or maybe even worse than that, actually, in the ACC. But Bethea's coming in next year. We're back to being a blue blood next year.
You got unlimited NIL.
John, I'm glad you mentioned the blue bloods being in this spot. I do feel like it's better for the sport to see these big names in the Sweet 16, in the Elite Eight, and moving forward. I know people love upsets, and we love to talk about the Oaklands and whatnot, but do you think it's better for the sport to see all these blue bloods past the first weekend?
Yeah, it is. It's better for college basketball. It really is. For the men's side, I will say this to you guys. I believe that women's basketball has done an all-around better job of promoting its superstars. Now, it helps when you have the all-around best player that we've perhaps ever seen, and certainly the best scorer in Caitlin Clark. But on the men's side, this is huge. It's huge because in men's college basketball the last couple of years, some of the biggest faces in the sport's history have exited the sport, and those are coaches. So right now we're seeing a bit of a renaissance in the sport of some of these big-time brands. But more than anything, here's the deal. You have the reigning national champions in UConn who are trying to capture history and become the first in Florida to go back-to-back. You have the best player in the country in Zach Edey. And if Edey didn't make it to this point, guys, I think it would have really, really damaged things because we've talked all year about redemption, and it looks like that redemption is happening. Houston, Kelvin Sampson has won as much as anybody over the last 5 years. They might not be a blue blood, but they play like one. They've won like one over the last half decade or so. But then you go right down the line. You've got Carolina. You've got Duke. I think Arizona is super intriguing in this tournament. Heck, even Tennessee with Dalton Knecht is a great story. I mean, the Volunteers brought in Dalton Knecht from Northern Colorado. This is a guy who was not getting watched by many eyeballs at all. He's the second best player in all of college basketball. So we have a Sweet 16 that is rich with storylines. Even Gonzaga, who went from bubbly from 5 weeks ago to now being a team that's dangerous and playing their best basketball. Recognizable names: Mark Few, Matt Painter, Dan Hurley now. Hurley's become maybe the face of this sport from the coaching side. And hey, we've got John Shire, who's trying to prove himself. Hubert Davis trying to get to a second Final Four in 3 years. I'm intrigued. I think it's great for college basketball. It means more people, more casuals are going to watch the sport this weekend because they recognize the team on their screens. That's not a bad thing.
So we talk all about it. You just ran through it and put it in great fashion there, just all the storylines that you have like within each of these individual teams or so. So like of these one, I think we haven't had 1 versus 2 and never in every Elite Eight game. They had like 1 versus 2, three 1 versus 2s and a 1 versus 3. I think the year Oregon was a 3 and lost to Kansas, I think in that 2008 season, I think it was. But you look at, of these 1 and 2 seeds, which do you think is potentially in the most trouble this weekend in the Sweet 16?
I would say Marquette. You know, I get a little bit wary of their matchup with NC State. I know that Marquette's a heavy favorite in that one. I think NC State is riding the heater in this and is going to be able to score against Marquette. So I'm not sure about that line. In terms of the ones, UConn to me is unstoppable. They're a freight train. They're going to get to Arizona, right? You know, I like the other ones. And like Carolina, could they have some vulnerability because Alabama scores the ball so well? Maybe, but I don't see it. If there's a vulnerable one, it's Houston, because Duke has found something here. Their backcourt was exceptional this past weekend in Brooklyn. Jared McCain had 30 points. That's too shy of a Duke freshman scoring record in the NCAA tournament to only Zion Williamson. And when people are like, well, they beat James Madison in Vermont, you do not apologize for NCAA tournament wins. I've never heard of such a thing. The fact is, you're there. Brad Underwood says it best, the Illinois head coach. He's like, the key to making an NCAA tournament run is to keep making the NCAA tournament. And eventually, when you roll the dice on the craps table, it's going to come out okay for you. So for me, guys, like I look at it from the standpoint of Houston requires Jamal Shedd, LJ Cryer, and Emmanuel Sharp to be great. They're not a deep team. And I worry about if one of those guys has an off game, the way McCain's shooting it, the way Tyrese Proctor can play. And Duke should have the best front court player in this game in Kyle Filipowski. I think John Shire's team has found something here late. It's very late, but I think they found something here. And I think if there's a 1 seed that could go down, no, it's not Purdue this time. No, it's not UConn. No, it's not North Carolina. I do think Houston is susceptible in this Sweet 16 game.
Taking Purdue out of this answer, which is the team that gives UConn the most trouble between now and a championship game?
Great question.
Or is it Purdue? You can say Purdue, I guess, if you don't have an answer.
No. From now to a championship game, it's Arizona. Yeah. Why? Because if they play Arizona in the Final Four, it will be an Arizona home game.
Yep.
You know, that's a big element to this Final Four potentially, is that it is in Glendale. It's been a while since we've seen basically a home game for a team in the Final Four. I don't recall a time that happened. Like that I really don't. And I think for Arizona, they're so momentum-based, they're so pace-based, they could score and they defend. If you look at the metrics, Arizona fits every metric for a national champion in the last 25 years between offense and defense. 2 teams are in KenPom top 10 offensive and defensive adjusted efficiency, UConn and Arizona. So if the Wildcats can advance to a Final Four, that Final Four game between UConn and Arizona would be a treat for all of us, would have an Arizona crowd, would have Caleb Love, and Kylan Boswell's the key to this whole equation for Tommy Lloyd. He really is. He's got to be good for them to beat a UConn, for them to beat a heavyweight. But I think that the Wildcats could give UConn trouble. I'd say Carolina, but when the 2 teams met back in December, Carolina did not have enough, and Armando Bacot was not effective against Donovan Clingan and company inside.
Yeah, I wonder if the way Clemson defended the ball and eliminated Baylor's transition and Baylor's offense, like if Brad Brownell's team can duplicate that effort, that could be an interesting game, I think, this week. Is just while everything you said about the metrics and the player, is just still a small part of me that doesn't trust Arizona when push comes to shove.
I don't disagree with you at all. There's a trust issue. There's a couple of programs here that are big brands, but have been hard to trust in the tournament in the past. Arizona is one of them. And, Bear, where you're right is Clemson's got experience. They've got experience and balance. They know how to slow the game down. Chase Hunter has back-to-back 20-plus point games. P.J. Hall's a seasoned vet. Joe Girard's a shot maker. Clemson can slow the game down to their liking. If they do that, Mick Cronin said this on the Herd earlier this week. The way to beat Arizona is to stick them in the half court. That's what Clemson can do.
In the other game, in another team, which we certainly have had trust issues with the coach and the team, is Tennessee. And do you think winning a game like that against Texas, it was an ugly game. What were they, 2 of 25 or something like that from three-point range? They were up. Then the next thing you know, Texas has got a shot to tie it or win it. Do you think maybe being on the losing side of so many of those games, you think maybe winning a game like that might cause Rick Barnes to kind of approach his team and like exhale and be like, see, you can win these games. You can gut it out. You can win it. Maybe they finally play loose and free against the Creighton. Like, this should be a really intriguing, like, neither team shot the ball well in their second round game, Creighton or Tennessee. And Creighton probably shouldn't even be here right now. But this could be a game where I think we see a lot of threes rain back and forth.
I see Schwartz shaking his head.
Well, Creighton shouldn't be there. If we can make a foul shot, Oregon's playing this game. Oh, it's upsetting. Make your foul shots, everyone.
Well, you should know who to inbound the ball to.
The problem, okay, I don't want to get into Oregon podcast here. There was no one left to play. We had 5. No one was healthy, and we had a freshman, taking the ball out. It doesn't matter. The Oregon's not in the tournament. Talk about someone else.
No, you know what? I agree with you, Bear. And if you're Creighton, you're like, we got an extra life. To me, Tennessee should have beat Texas by 15. Mm-hmm. They had a horrible shooting performance. They were the far better team, though. But that's the difference with this Tennessee team, is when they are stuck, they still have the second best player in America in Dalton Knecht, in my humble opinion. And he unleashes something from Tennessee that makes you trust them more. It's like the girl that you've been trying to date for a long, long time, and then all of a sudden you just feel like maybe she figured some things out, but she also believes in you because you got a job, and now you two can be a couple. I mean, Tennessee in the past, I haven't been willing to date them, but now I am a little bit willing to date them. I think that they are a team that, with Santiago Vescovi and with Zakai Ziegler and with Adu on the interior, they're still tough as nails. Now they have someone who gives them a little bit of finesse. It's still the same grind you down type of bar that's dirty and requires, it's not looking for any requirements for you to walk in. They've got a $2.99 beer for you waiting at the bar. But now if you want a cocktail, Dalton Knecht can give you a little bit of flair to what they do, and they're capable of winning if it's a finesse type of game. They can win a higher scoring game because they have someone who opens up what they do offensively. I expect Tennessee to shoot the ball better. I would think Creighton does too, but Tennessee's defense could be very disruptive to Creighton. One thing about Creighton, they don't play a fast tempo. It's one of the misconceptions with this Creighton team. Everyone's like, Creighton loves to run. They'd like to when they can get out, but Tennessee's going to try to lock them down in the half court.
And the other thing Creighton doesn't do is foul. So that'll be interesting to see. They don't give the opponent cheapies, and we'll see if that continues this week. John, you're the best man. Enjoy the games up in Boston this week, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
I love the show. I'm the biggest Bear and Geoff Schwartz fan out there. Love you guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
Bear Bets full episodes drop twice a week right here on the Bear Bets YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to stay ahead of the odds, and let's celebrate all of our wins together.